Have you ever poured your energy into a man, being sweet, patient, and endlessly understanding, only to realize he doesn't value you the way you hoped? Maybe you were taught that niceness is the secret to winning his heart, that if you bend, adjust, and give enough, he'll finally see your worth. But here's the cold, unfiltered truth. Being nice isn't the magic key to attraction. In fact, it's often the very thing holding you back from building the deep, magnetic connection you deserve.
Why?
Because the problem isn't your kindness, it's how it's delivered. When kindness feels overeager, desperate, or like an attempt to earn love, it loses its power. Men rarely value what comes without effort. Being too nice is like handing him a treasure chest without ever asking him to dig for it. The real issue isn't your heart, it's the perception. And perception changes everything. Here's the good news. You don't need to change who you are, play manipulative games, or pretend to be someone you're not. What you need is a shift in approach, a mindset rooted in what I call dark Stoic psychology. This isn't about cruelty or coldness. It's about embodying self-respect, emotional discipline, and a balanced dynamic that naturally commands his attention. Stoicism teaches us this. True power lies in integrity, confidence, and purpose, not in overgiving, overchasing, or shrinking yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. This isn't about being less kind. It's about making your kindness valuable. It's about becoming magnetic instead of nice. And in this journey, I'm going to show you 10 powerful shifts to stop over-nicing your way into relationships and start captivating men in a way that feels effortless, authentic, and deeply attractive. Are you ready? Let's begin with the first game changer. 1. Don't fall too quickly. Why do we fall so fast? Is it the spark in his eye, the charm of his smile, or the intoxicating fantasy of what could be? Maybe it's all of those things, but let me ask you this. How often does falling too quickly lead to heartbreak, disappointment, or one-sided effort? How often do we find ourselves giving our hearts away before truly understanding if he deserves them? Here's the truth. When you fall too quickly, you're not just giving him your attention, you're giving him the power to dictate the relationship. Suddenly, every text he doesn't send, every delayed response, and every missed compliment feels monumental.
Why?
Because your emotional investment skyrocketed before he even had a chance to earn it. Men can sense when you're too eager. It doesn't feel romantic, it feels desperate, and desperation is the antithesis of attraction. Falling too quickly creates an imbalance where your world starts to revolve around him while he's still deciding if he even wants to step into yours. So, how do you stop yourself from falling head over heels the moment he flashes that grin? Practice self-control. This is where Stoicism becomes your secret weapon. Lovios teach us to evaluate situations with clarity, not emotion. Instead of getting swept up in the rush of attraction, step back and ask yourself, what do I really know about him? Does his character align with my values? Has he earned the effort I'm putting in? This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about maintaining your power. Imagine meeting a man who captivates you. Instead of showering him with immediate affection or overextending yourself to impress him, you approach the situation with measured curiosity. You engage with confidence, but you don't rush to declare your feelings. You allow the connection to grow naturally, giving him the chance to pursue you and prove his worth. This shift is magnetic because men are drawn to women who value themselves. When you don't fall too quickly, you signal that your time and attention are precious. You become the prize, not the one chasing it. Slowing down protects your heart, giving you the space to observe his actions, consistency, and intentions, allowing you to make informed decisions about whether he's truly the right fit for your life. Falling slowly isn't about withholding affection. It's about safeguarding your peace and ensuring that every step you take in a relationship is intentional and aligned with your values. Remember, the essence of dark Stoic psychology is control, not over him, but over yourself. By mastering your emotions and choosing to fall at your own pace, you become irresistible. You're not just a woman he's interested in, you're the woman he can't stop thinking about. So the next time you feel yourself falling too fast, pause. Ask yourself, is he showing me the same level of effort I'm putting in? Is he meeting my standards? Am I truly seeing him for who he is, Or am I projecting who I want him to be? These questions aren't just a safeguard. They're your roadmap to a healthier, more balanced connection. Falling in love is beautiful, but falling wisely, that's transformative. 2. Stop waiting for his approval. Let me ask you something. How often do you catch yourself waiting for his validation? Maybe it's in the way you dress, the text you send, or how you hang on to his every word hoping for that approving smile or comment. Have you ever noticed how exhausting that feels? Here's the reality. Waiting for his approval is like handing him the reins to your self-worth, and guess what? He didn't ask for them, nor should he have them. When you hinge your happiness on his validation, you shrink yourself. You start to second-guess your choices, your thoughts, and even your dreams, all in an effort to mold yourself into what you think he wants. But let's flip the script for a second. Would you find a man who constantly seeks your approval attractive? Or would you admire someone who is self-assured, unapologetically themselves, and radiates confidence without needing anyone to pat them on the back? Exactly. Men are drawn to women who exude self-respect and independence. It's not about being unapproachable or cold. It's about owning who you are and not needing him to complete you. This is where dark Stoic psychology comes into play. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and beliefs, and let go of what we can't control, like someone else's opinion of us. Imagine this. Instead of waiting for him to compliment your new outfit or notice your hard work, you celebrate yourself. You look in the mirror and think, I look amazing today, because you genuinely believe it. You smash a goal at work and toast yourself, not because he noticed, but because you know you're worth it. This shift isn't just empowering, it's magnetic. When you stop waiting for his approval, you take back your power. You're no longer a woman seeking validation. You're a woman who knows she's enough exactly as she is. This confidence isn't just attractive, it's irresistible. Men don't want someone who needs them to feel whole. They're drawn to women who are already whole, who choose to share their lives without sacrificing their self-worth. Let's be clear, this isn't about ignoring him or acting aloof. It's about creating a dynamic where your validation comes from within, not from his words or actions. For example, if you're passionate about something, whether it's art, fitness, or your career, pursue it unapologetically. Don't wait for him to notice or praise you. Show up for yourself first. Men respect women who have their own passions and aren't afraid to pursue them. And here's the magic. When you stop seeking his approval, he starts seeking yours. Why? Because you've become a challenge. You're no longer predictable or overly accommodating. You're someone who values herself, and that's a quality he can't ignore. 3. Don't lead with your favors. Picture this. You're with the man you like, and every time he needs something, no matter how inconvenient, it's an automatic yes from you. Need a ride? Sure. Forgot lunch? You're on your way. Feeling stressed? You'll drop everything to listen. Sound familiar? While it might feel like you're showing care and affection, there's a fine line between being generous and being taken for granted. Here's the hard truth. Constantly leading with favors doesn't make him value you more. In fact, it often does the opposite. When you're too available, too accommodating, or too quick to sacrifice your own needs, it sends a subtle message. My time and energy are less important than yours. That's not the dynamic you want to create. Now, don't misunderstand. Kindness is powerful, and helping someone you care about is a beautiful thing. But when your generosity becomes excessive or one-sided, it shifts the balance of the relationship. He starts to see your efforts as something he's entitled to rather than a gift. Worse, he might begin to associate your constant yes with a lack of self-respect or boundaries. So, what's the solution? It starts with redefining the way you view favors. Instead of seeing them as a tool to win his affection, think of them as a natural extension of mutual respect and connection. If a favor feels genuine, something you can do without overextending yourself, then by all means go for it. But if it feels like a way to gain his approval or prove your worth, it's time to take a step back. This is where the principles of Stoicism come into play. Lovias teach us to act with intention and integrity, not from a place of fear or desperation. They remind us that we are responsible for guarding our time, energy, and boundaries. Just as you wouldn't let a stranger deplete your resources, you shouldn't let a man do it either, no matter how much you like him. Think of it this way. When you say yes to everything, you leave no room for him to step up. Relationships are partnerships, not performances. If you're constantly doing the heavy lifting emotionally or practically, you deny him the opportunity to contribute and show his investment. Remember, a man who truly values you won't want to see you overextending yourself to make him happy. He'll want to meet you halfway. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. When you adopt the same approach, you not only preserve your energy, but you also create a dynamic where he feels challenged and intrigued. Boundaries also invite deeper connection. When you're clear about what you can and can't give, it encourages honesty and communication. Finally, consider how this impacts your own self-perception. Every time you prioritize your needs, you reinforce the belief that you are worthy of balance and reciprocity. You start to see your time and energy as precious resources, not bargaining chips. This mindset isn't just empowering, it's transformative. When you value yourself, you set the standard for how others should value you too. 4. Avoid playing by a checklist. Have you ever asked someone what they're looking for in a partner, only to hear the same predictable traits? I want someone kind, a good listener, supportive, and fun. It sounds lovely, doesn't it? But here's the thing. When you hear these qualities, it's tempting to turn yourself into a checklist, someone who fits a neatly packaged ideal. You try to tick every box, thinking, if I can be all of these things, how could he not choose me? The truth. Trying to play by a checklist might make you seem nice, but it won't create the spark that builds real attraction.
Why?
Because relationships aren't built on meeting a list of expectations. They thrive on chemistry, mutual growth, and authentic connection. Let's break this down. When you focus on meeting his perceived ideal, you're not only placing unnecessary pressure on yourself, but you're also dampening your individuality. You become so busy trying to be what you think he wants that you forget to show him who you really are. And here's the reality. Men aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to authenticity, complexity, and a little unpredictability. For example, if you remain true to your personality, kind, yes, but also funny, opinionated, or even a little challenging, you create a dynamic that feels alive and real. The checklist version of yourself might catch his attention, but the authentic version of you is what keeps him hooked. It's easy to fall into this trap unintentionally. Society often tells us that women should be agreeable, adaptable, and eager to please. But here's the thing. When you try too hard to fit a mold, you're not just hiding your true self, you're also creating a dynamic where his needs and desires come first, and yours are an afterthought. Over time, this imbalance can lead to resentment, dissatisfaction, and a loss of self-respect. Instead of focusing on ticking boxes, shift your energy towards showing him your whole self. If you're naturally witty, let that shine. If you have strong opinions, share them. If you're passionate about something, dive into it unapologetically. Your uniqueness isn't just attractive, it's unforgettable. Here's the hard truth. If being yourself scares him off, he was never the right person for you. True connection isn't about molding yourself to fit his preferences. It's about finding someone who values you for who you are. This philosophy teaches us to focus on internal values and strengths rather than external validation. When you prioritize authenticity over appeasement, you embody confidence, clarity, and self-respect. You stop seeking approval and start attracting admiration. Another layer to consider is how abandoning the checklist benefits your own well-being. When you stop trying to meet someone else's expectations, you create space to explore your own desires, goals, and passions. You become not just a partner, but a fully realized individual, someone who adds depth and dimension to any relationship. What makes relationships last isn't perfect alignment. It's the spark, the challenge, the dynamic flow that comes from two whole, authentic people building something unique together. That's what keeps the connection alive, evolving, and deeply fulfilling. 5. Stop suppressing your authentic self. Let me ask you a bold question. Who are you when you're truly yourself? I mean the real you. The one who laughs a little too loudly with her friends, the one who dives deep into her passions, the one who has quirks and edges that make her unforgettable? Now, let me ask another question. Who do you become when you're with a man you're trying to impress? Do you dim your light, soften your opinions, or mold yourself into what you think he wants? If so, you're not alone, but it's time for that to change. Suppressing your authentic self is one of the most common mistakes women make in relationships.
Why?
Because we're often conditioned to believe that being agreeable, quiet, and low maintenance will make us more appealing. But here's the truth. Men are not attracted to a blank slate. They're drawn to women who are unapologetically themselves, women who bring energy, perspective, and a sense of self that adds depth to the relationship. Here's the thing. When you suppress who you are, you don't just cheat yourself, you cheat him too. You rob him of the chance to know the dynamic, fascinating, one-of-a-kind person you truly are. And let's be honest, how can a man fall for the real you if you're hiding her behind a facade? This is where embracing dark Stoic psychology comes into play. Stoicism teaches us to live in harmony with our true nature, unburdened by the fear of rejection or the need for approval. It challenges us to show up authentically, knowing that the right people will embrace us not despite our uniqueness, but because of it. Men are captivated by authenticity. They want to see the sparkle in your eye when you talk about something you love. They want to laugh with you when you share an embarrassing story. They want to feel your energy, your passion, your depth. But that can't happen if you're so busy trying to be the perfect version of yourself that you forget to be yourself. When you suppress your personality to please a man, you unknowingly set a dangerous precedent. You teach him that your needs, opinions, and preferences are secondary. Over time, this dynamic can lead to resentment, not just towards him, but toward yourself.
Why?
Because deep down you know you're not living authentically. And let's be honest, a relationship built on anything less than authenticity is doomed to crumble. So how do you stop suppressing your authentic self? It starts with self-awareness. Ask yourself, what parts of me do I hide in relationships? Why do I feel the need to hide them? Once you've identified these patterns, challenge them. The next time you're with him, let your guard down. Share that nerdy hobby, laugh at your own jokes, or voice your opinion, even if it's different from his. Yes, it might feel vulnerable at first, but vulnerability is where true connection begins. If your authenticity pushes him away, that's a gift. It saves you from investing in someone who doesn't truly value you. And trust me, the right man won't just accept your quirks and edges, he'll love them. 6. Take the lead. Have you ever found yourself waiting for him to make the first move? Maybe it's the first text after a date, the suggestion for your next outing, or even a conversation about where things are headed. You sit, you wonder, you overanalyze. But here's a question. Why are you waiting? What would happen if you stepped forward and took the lead instead? There's a pervasive myth that men should always be the initiators, the ones to call, plan, and pursue. But let's unravel that. While many men appreciate the opportunity to take charge, there's something undeniably attractive about a woman who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to act on it. Taking the lead doesn't mean overpowering or controlling the dynamic. It means showing confidence and decisiveness, qualities that men respect and admire. Think about it. When you step up and take initiative, you're showing him that you're invested in the connection, not passively, but actively. You're telling him, I'm here because I want to be, not because I'm waiting for you to decide whether I'm worth it. That energy, it's magnetic. Now, let's clarify what taking the lead looks like in practice. It doesn't mean dominating the relationship or making every decision. It's about creating balance. For instance, if you've been out on a few dates and he's always chosen the venue, why not surprise him with a thoughtful plan of your own? Suggest a place you think you'll love or introduce him to something you're passionate about. This not only shows initiative, but also gives him a glimpse into your world, a powerful way to build intimacy. This approach isn't just about dates and plans. It applies to deeper conversations too. If there's something on your mind, don't wait for him to bring it up. Whether it's asking about his intentions, discussing your goals, or sharing how you feel, taking the lead in communication demonstrates maturity and confidence. It sets the tone for open, honest dialogue, an essential foundation for any meaningful relationship. What if he's the type who prefers to lead? That's fine too. Taking the lead doesn't mean you take it every time. It means you show that you're capable and willing to meet him halfway. A relationship thrives when both partners feel empowered to contribute equally. When you show him that you're not afraid to take initiative, it challenges him in the best way. It pushes him to step up, to match your energy, and to see you as a partner, not just a follower. There's also an unexpected benefit to taking the lead. It helps you gain clarity. When you initiate plans, conversations, or moments of connection, you're putting energy into the relationship. If he reciprocates, it's a sign that he values what you're building together. If he doesn't, it's an opportunity to reassess whether he's truly invested. Either way, you're taking control of your time and emotions, living by the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. This is where dark Stoic psychology shines. Stoicism teaches us to act from a place of courage and purpose. Taking the lead is a perfect embodiment of this philosophy. It's about rejecting fear, fear of rejection, fear of overstepping, fear of being too much, and stepping into your power. When you act with intention, you're not just leading, you're leading with integrity. Of course, taking the lead requires balance. It's not about constantly doing all the work. It's about creating a rhythm where effort flows naturally from both sides. Taking the lead also means trusting yourself. It means knowing that your actions, words, and energy are valuable and that you have every right to guide the direction of your relationships. This mindset doesn't just transform how he sees you, it transforms how you see yourself. You're no longer the woman who waits and wonders. You're the woman who creates, decides, and inspires. 7. Create boundaries with generosity. Imagine this. He asks for a favor. It seems small at first, a ride to the airport, help with a work project, or advice on something personal. You agree, happy to help. But over time, his requests start piling up, and before you know it, you're saying yes more than you're saying no. You find yourself stretched thin, juggling his needs alongside your own, wondering how you got here. Here's the truth. Creating boundaries isn't about being selfish. It's about being generous in a sustainable way. When you set clear limits, you're not only protecting your own well-being, you're also preserving the integrity of the relationship.
Why?
Because boundaries teach others how to treat us. They establish mutual respect and ensure that the energy you give is met with gratitude, not expectation. Without boundaries, your generosity can become a double-edged sword. It might feel good to help him in the moment, but when it becomes one-sided, when your giving is met with taking rather than reciprocation, it starts to erode your self-worth. And here's the kicker. Men respect women who respect themselves. If you don't value your time and energy, how can you expect him to? Creating boundaries doesn't mean shutting him out or refusing to help. It means being intentional about what you give and why. Let's say he asks for something that feels inconvenient or draining. Instead of immediately agreeing, pause. Ask yourself, do I genuinely want to do this? Will this help strengthen our connection? Or am I doing it out of fear of disappointing him? This moment of reflection is powerful. It shifts your focus from reaction to intention, allowing you to act in alignment with your values. Boundaries also create space for mutual effort. When you're always the one giving, it robs him of the chance to step up and contribute. Relationships are partnerships, not one-sided acts of service. By saying no, when it feels appropriate, you're inviting him to show his investment in the connection. You're saying, I trust you to carry your share of the weight. This doesn't mean you stop being kind. Generosity is still a beautiful quality, but it should be balanced with self-respect. When you give from a place of abundance, when your cup is full and you have energy to spare, it feels empowering. But when you give out of obligation or depletion, it breeds resentment, and resentment is the silent killer of relationships. Boundaries also foster deeper emotional intimacy. When you're clear about what you can and can't give, it encourages honest communication. Instead of bending over backward to meet every need, you create a dynamic where both of you can express your limits without fear. This openness builds trust and mutual respect, key ingredients for a lasting connection. Boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about showing him that your time, energy, and presence are valuable. When you set limits, you're communicating, I value myself, and I expect you to value me too. This doesn't just elevate your self-respect, It elevates how he sees you. Men are drawn to women who carry themselves with confidence and clarity. Boundaries are a reflection of that. Here's where dark Stoic psychology comes into play. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, choices, and mindset, while letting go of what we can't, like his reactions. Setting boundaries is an act of self-control. It's about choosing to protect your energy regardless of whether he understands or agrees. And when you approach this with grace and kindness, it's not a rejection, it's a reaffirmation of your worth. Boundaries also give you clarity about his intentions. If a man respects your limits and appreciates your generosity without taking it for granted, it's a sign that he values you. But if he pushes back, complains, or makes you feel guilty, it's a red flag. Healthy relationships are built on respect, not entitlement. 8. Don't avoid the games. Let's talk about something you might secretly dislike: relationship games. You know, the push and pull, the playful banter, the unspoken dance of attraction that happens when two people are figuring each other out. Maybe you've avoided this in the past, thinking, I just want to be straightforward. Why can't he be too? But here's a little secret. These so-called games aren't just frivolous. They're essential for building chemistry and creating connection. Now, let me clarify. I'm not talking about manipulative or deceitful behavior. True games in relationships aren't about control or one-upping the other person. They're about creating intrigue, maintaining a sense of mystery, and most importantly, having fun. When done authentically, these moments of playfulness become the glue that keeps the spark alive. Think about it. What's more captivating? A predictable conversation where everything is laid out plainly, or a lively exchange full of teasing, shared smiles, and a little guessing about what comes next? Men, like women, thrive on excitement and curiosity. When you embrace this playful energy, you're not just keeping things interesting, you're creating moments he won't forget. Here's the truth. Men love a challenge. It's hardwired into their psychology. When things are too easy, they lose interest. This doesn't mean you should create artificial obstacles, but rather that you should lean into the natural ebb and flow of attraction. Dark Stoic psychology teaches us to balance authenticity with intrigue, to be genuine in our intentions while allowing the relationship to unfold naturally without over-revealing or rushing. But what if you feel uncomfortable with this dynamic? What if you worry about coming across as disingenuous? The key here is intention. When you approach the games with a spirit of fun and authenticity, they stop being games in the negative sense. They become a way to deepen connection and foster mutual interest. Think of it like flirting. It's not about hiding your feelings, it's about expressing them in a way that creates excitement. When you avoid playful dynamics, you risk becoming overly predictable or too serious too soon. While honesty and straightforwardness are vital in a relationship, there's something magical about letting moments unfold with a little bit of wonder. Men want to feel like they're discovering you piece by piece, not being handed the entire picture all at once. By embracing these playful exchanges, you create a rhythm that keeps him engaged and intrigued. Let's bring this back to Stoicism for a moment. The Stoics teach us to approach life with balance, moderation, and intentionality. When you embrace the natural flow of attraction, you're practicing these principles in real time. You're allowing the relationship to grow organically without forcing it or overanalyzing every interaction. You're focusing on what you can control, your energy, your actions, your vibe, while letting go of the need to predict or control his responses. And here's the best part. When you lean into these dynamics, you're not just deepening the connection, you're having more fun. Relationships aren't supposed to feel like a chore or a strategy session. They're meant to be joyful, lighthearted, and full of surprises. When you embrace this energy, you don't just attract him. You create a bond that feels effortless and natural. 9. Don't lead with material offerings. Imagine this. You meet someone you like, and your first instinct is to impress him with gifts, extravagant gestures, or the subtle, or not so subtle, display of your financial stability. Maybe it's picking up the tab at dinner, surprising him with tickets to an event, or constantly offering to help him out financially. On the surface, it seems generous, thoughtful, even. But let me ask you this. Is leading with material offerings really about him? Or is it about trying to secure his affection? Here's the truth. When you lead with your wallet, you're sending a message that your value is tied to what you can provide materially rather than who you are as a person. And while some men might enjoy the perks, most won't respect the dynamic it creates. Relationships thrive on emotional connection, not transactional exchanges. If he starts associating your value with what you give rather than how you make him feel, the foundation of your connection becomes shaky. Why do we sometimes turn to material offerings to express our interest or affection? Often, it stems from a desire to prove our worth, an attempt to fill an invisible gap, real or imagined. But here's the thing. True connection doesn't require you to earn his attention or affection with gifts. In fact, overgiving can make you appear insecure or overly eager to please, which can diminish his attraction rather than enhance it. Instead of focusing on what you can give him materially, shift your attention to what you can share emotionally. Your energy, your humor, your perspective, your time. These intangible qualities are far more valuable in creating a meaningful bond. Men are drawn to women who know their worth isn't tied to what they can provide, but to who they are. Now, this doesn't mean you should never treat him or do something thoughtful. Generosity is a beautiful quality when it comes from a place of abundance, not as a strategy to gain approval. The key is balance. When your actions feel effortless and aligned with your values, they add to the relationship without overshadowing it. But when your generosity feels like an obligation or a way to keep his interest, it's time to step back and reassess. Consider this. A man who's genuinely interested in you won't need constant reminders of your financial capability. He'll be drawn to your confidence, your authenticity, and the way you make him feel when he's with you. If you're leading with material gestures, you might inadvertently attract someone who values what you have over who you are, something that can lead to disappointment down the line. Another layer to consider is how leading with material offerings affects your own sense of self-worth. If you're constantly giving, you may start to feel resentful or unappreciated, especially if your efforts aren't reciprocated in kind. Dark Stoic psychology reminds us to cultivate our inner strength and value independent of external possessions or validation. Your worth isn't defined by what you can buy. It's defined by the confidence and presence you bring to the table. By shifting the focus from material to emotional generosity, you create a relationship dynamic that's more sustainable and fulfilling. Instead of impressing him with what you have, you're captivating him with who you are. This approach not only strengthens your connection, but also ensures that his feelings for you are based on authenticity, not superficial gestures. And if he's someone who truly values you, he won't care about what you can provide. He'll care about the moments you create together, the way you challenge him, and the depth of the connection you build. By letting go of the need to impress him materially, you free yourself to connect on a deeper level, one that's built on mutual respect, admiration, and emotional intimacy. That's the kind of relationship worth investing in. 10. Hold him accountable for mutual respect. Let's face it. When you're deeply interested in someone, it's easy to overlook the small things, the slightly dismissive comments, the forgotten promises, the imbalance in effort. You might find yourself thinking, it's not a big deal, he's just busy, or he didn't mean it like that. But let me ask you this. If you let these moments slide, what message are you sending? More importantly, how does it affect your own sense of worth? Holding him accountable for mutual respect isn't about being confrontational or nitpicky. It's about ensuring that the relationship remains a space where both partners feel valued and seen. Respect is the foundation of any healthy connection. Without it, even the most passionate relationships crumble under the weight of unmet expectations and unspoken resentments. When you don't hold him accountable, you risk creating a dynamic where he feels entitled to take without giving, to speak without listening, to expect without reciprocating. This doesn't mean he's a bad person. It's often unintentional, but patterns of imbalance, if left unchecked, can erode the connection you're trying to build. So, how do you address these imbalances in a way that feels authentic and empowering? Start by setting clear expectations. For instance, if he consistently cancels plans at the last minute or forgets to follow through on his promises, let him know how it affects you. This approach is firm yet respectful, leaving room for dialogue without compromising your boundaries. Here's where Stoicism plays a crucial role. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our responses, and our standards. You can't control whether he changes his behavior, but you can control how you react to it. By calmly and clearly communicating your expectations, you're reinforcing your self-respect and inviting him to rise to the occasion. Now, let's talk about consistency. A man who respects you won't just listen, he'll act. If he values the relationship, he'll make an effort to align his behavior with your expectations. But if he dismisses your concerns, minimizes your feelings, or continues to act in ways that disrespect you, it's a clear sign that the relationship may not be serving you. And here's the hard truth. No amount of love or effort on your part can compensate for a lack of respect on his. Holding him accountable isn't just about addressing his behavior, it's about modeling the respect you expect. This means showing up as your best self, honoring your commitments, and treating him with the same care you desire in return. When you lead by example, you set the tone for the relationship, creating a dynamic where respect becomes a mutual, unspoken standard. Another layer to this is accountability for yourself. Are you upholding the same standards you expect from him? If you ask for consistency, are you being consistent? If you desire respect, are you showing respect? Relationships are mirrors. They reflect back the energy we bring to them. By holding yourself accountable, you not only strengthen the relationship, but also deepen your own sense of integrity. And let's not forget the importance of celebrating progress. When he makes an effort to meet your expectations, acknowledge it. Accountability isn't just about pointing out what's wrong, it's also about recognizing what's right. By holding him accountable for mutual respect, you're not just improving the relationship, you're redefining it. You're creating a dynamic where both partners feel empowered, valued, and seen. This isn't just about him. It's about you stepping into your worth and showing him that you deserve nothing less than a relationship built on respect, trust, and balance. Remember, respect isn't a favor, it's a requirement. When you hold him accountable, you're not being demanding or difficult, you're honoring yourself. And when you honor yourself, you inspire him to do the same. That's the kind of connection where real love lasts. 11. Avoid making excuses for him. Have you ever caught yourself making excuses for his behavior? Maybe he forgot an important date, didn't follow through on a promise, or brushed off a meaningful conversation. Instead of addressing it, you tell yourself things like, he's just stressed, or he's not great with expressing emotions. While it's natural to want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, constantly rationalizing his actions can create a dangerous pattern, one where your feelings and needs are quietly pushed aside. Excuses are like tiny cracks in the foundation of a relationship. At first, they may seem harmless, just small accommodations for his imperfections. But over time, they build into a habit of minimizing your own worth and ignoring the balance that a healthy relationship requires. Let me ask you, if you're always making excuses for him, who's holding him accountable? And more importantly, how is this affecting your sense of self-respect? Here's the reality. No one is perfect, and relationships will always involve compromise. But there's a difference between compromise and self-sacrifice. When you consistently make excuses for him, you're teaching him that he doesn't need to show up fully, that his half-efforts, broken promises, or lack of communication are acceptable. This isn't just about him, it's about the message you're sending to yourself. My needs can wait, my feelings don't matter as much. Let's break down why this happens. Often we make excuses because we're afraid of confrontation. We worry that addressing the issue might push him away or create tension. But here's the thing, avoiding conflict doesn't resolve it, it prolongs it. And by sidestepping these conversations, you're robbing both of you of the chance to grow and strengthen the relationship. So, what's the alternative? It's simple. Replace excuses with clarity. When something bothers you, address it directly and calmly. This approach is honest and solution-focused, creating space for a meaningful dialogue. This is where dark Stoic psychology becomes your ally. Stoicism teaches us to embrace honesty, integrity, and courage, even when it's uncomfortable. By addressing the issue instead of excusing it, you're not just advocating for yourself, you're fostering a relationship rooted in respect and mutual understanding. You're showing him that your feelings matter and that a truly meaningful connection requires effort from both sides. There's also an unexpected benefit to this approach. It deepens your own self-respect. Every time you choose clarity over excuses, you're reinforcing the belief that your feelings and needs are valid. You're stepping into your power, showing yourself that you're worthy of a relationship where you don't have to constantly justify or rationalize his behavior. This isn't about being rigid or unforgiving. Everyone has off days, and occasional mistakes are part of life. But when a pattern emerges, when his behavior consistently leaves you feeling undervalued, it's time to address it, not excuse it. You don't need to settle for almost good enough. By letting go of the habit of making excuses, you open yourself to a connection that truly fulfills you. You create space for a relationship where both partners are accountable, present, and deeply invested in each other's happiness. Remember, a relationship is a partnership, not a solo performance where one person carries the weight of understanding, compromise, and forgiveness. When you stop making excuses for him, you're not being harsh or critical. You're choosing to believe in the possibility of something better, something real, something worthwhile where you both show up fully and authentically. 12. Don't overlook the importance of your standards. Let's take a moment to reflect. Do you have a clear sense of what you want and need in a relationship, or do you find yourself bending your standards to accommodate someone else? Maybe you've caught yourself saying, "It's fine, no one's perfect," or "I guess I can live without that." While compromise is essential, abandoning your core values isn't. And failing to hold your standards isn't just about the relationship, it's about how you see yourself. When you lower your standards, you're essentially telling yourself and him that what you want isn't as important as keeping the relationship afloat. But here's the truth. Your standards are not negotiable. They're a reflection of your worth, your values, and your vision for the kind of life and love you want to build. If you're constantly lowering the bar, you're setting the stage for disappointment, imbalance, and a lingering sense of unfulfillment. Let's dig deeper. Why do we sometimes compromise on our standards? Often it's driven by fear. Fear of being alone, fear of seeming demanding, or fear that holding out for what we truly want might leave us waiting forever. But here's a radical thought. What if staying true to your standards isn't about finding the perfect partner, but about creating the foundation for a relationship that aligns with your authentic self? This is where Stoicism offers powerful insight. The Stoics teach us to value inner virtue and self-respect over external circumstances. In relationships, this means prioritizing your principles and standards, even when it's tempting to let them slide. When you honor your values, you're not just setting boundaries, you're building a life that reflects your deepest truths. Sticking to your standards doesn't mean being inflexible or unrealistic. It's about knowing the difference between healthy compromise and self-betrayal. Here's a transformative truth. When you uphold your standards, you naturally attract people who align with them. Why? Because your energy shifts. You're no longer operating from a place of scarcity or fear. You're radiating confidence and clarity. And that kind of energy doesn't just attract partners, it attracts the right partners. But let's be honest, holding your standards isn't always easy. It might mean walking away from someone you care about because they can't meet you where you are. It might mean standing firm in moments where compromise feels like the path of least resistance. And it might mean sitting with discomfort as you wait for the kind of connection that truly fulfills you. But here's the payoff. When you hold your standards, you're creating the space for a relationship that's not just good enough, but deeply aligned with your values and vision. Remember, your standards are a reflection of your self-respect. When you honor them, you're not just creating a roadmap for love, you're cultivating a deep sense of worth that will ripple into every area of your life. And that's a foundation no relationship can shake. Hold your standards high because the right man won't just meet them, he'll rise to exceed them. And when he does, you'll know it's not because you settled, but because you stayed true to yourself. That's the power of honoring your standards. That's the power of living authentically. As we come to the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect on the bigger picture. Every step we've explored, whether it's setting boundaries, taking the lead, or holding him accountable, is rooted in one fundamental truth. You are worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. The key to unlocking meaningful relationships isn't about being overly nice or constantly giving more than you receive. It's about embracing balance, authenticity, and a deep sense of self-respect. When you stop trying to mold yourself into someone else's ideal and start honoring your own values, everything changes. You stop chasing affection and start attracting admiration. You stop waiting for validation and begin living with confidence. You stop settling for less and begin demanding what you deserve, not with words, but with the way you carry yourself. The philosophy of dark Stoic psychology and Stoicism has guided us throughout this exploration, reminding us of the power of intention and integrity. When you live in alignment with your principles, you create a magnetic energy that draws the right kind of people into your life. You stop fearing rejection because you know that letting go of what doesn't serve you is the ultimate form of self-respect. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more of who you already are, a woman who knows her worth, a woman who isn't afraid to take the lead, set boundaries, and hold her ground. A woman who understands that true love isn't about sacrificing herself, but about building a partnership that celebrates and elevates both individuals. As you move forward, remember this: you are the prize. The right man won't need to be convinced of your value. He'll see it, feel it, and rise to meet you where you are. And if he doesn't, that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection towards something better. Now it's time to take action. Step into your power, live with intention, and most importantly, love yourself enough to demand a relationship that reflects your highest standards. Here's to your growth, your self-respect, and your future. Stay confident, stay radiant, and remember, you are enough, always.